You are listening to the Technical Foul Podcast for Saturday, September 8th, 2018. I am your host, Manny Fresh, and I am back. Yes, back from an unplanned, unscheduled, unwanted hiatus. Man, it's been crazy the last 2.5 weeks. For those of you who follow me on social media, and if you're listening to the show, I would hope that all of you, follow me on social media. But if you don't, if you're a new listener or whatever, I have been battling a serious bout with pneumonia, man. It's been crazy. The last 2.5 weeks have been a crazy ass whirlwind. So I'll get into it in a second here, but, thanks for sticking with us, man. People been messaging me and texting me and DMing me about, when's the show coming back? Man, what's going on? 2.5 weeks. And I'm, kind of gone dark. I mean, I've been active a little bit on Twitter, but, mostly this week, but, a lot of last week I wasn't even really on Twitter like that, but it was crazy, man. I was dying, bro. Like I thought I was really dying, man. It started, really, it started 2 Sundays ago, really. No, 3 Sundays ago. It started, 3 Sundays ago. It was the 19th, I believe. It was Sunday the 19th. Yeah. Sunday the 19th, I believe. It was the only reason I remember because it was SummerSlam. I'm watching SummerSlam. The whole weekend I'm fine. Like I was cool, hung out with the kids, wife, whatever. To come that Sunday, everything is cool. I'm watching SummerSlam with my son. Everything is cool. Like no issues, no worries. I ate, ate dinner that night, watched Insecure, I believe I watched Insecure. Like everything was cool. And then like right towards when I was watching Insecure, I started feeling like my stomach was hurting. I was feeling nauseous and just whatever. Right. And I was like, I didn't think nothing of it. I was just probably like, oh, probably just, I had some chicken. So, chicken made me sick or something or whatever. So I was really nauseous that night. So I went to bed, wake up around 3 o'clock in the morning. And I just, I'm just sick, barfing, like throwing up. Like, man, I'm not feeling good at all. Like I was just like, this is horrible. Like, why am I throwing up? And I never throw up. Like, that's one of the things, like I pride myself. Like I have to be really like, near the point of death for me to be throwing up. Like, I just hate throwing up. I hate the feeling of throwing up. So if I'm throwing up, it's really like, I'm sick. I'm dying. So, I was nauseous all night. I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, like I said, threw up. And then I felt fine. I went back to bed or whatever. Woke up at 6 o'clock, started my day. And I wasn't feeling right. Like that whole morning, I wasn't feeling right. I get to work and I'm just like, matter of fact, I'm in the car, like parking, by my job. And I'm just like, I'm not feeling it. I'm sick. I just feel like really sore. Like, how that feeling when you get the flu. And it's the worst feeling too. Like, because the flu is so weird because it's a lot of different ways, the flu can come on to you. Some people just get, the general kind of cold like symptoms and other people, get the lethargy and the body pain and all. I get the lethargy and the body pain. So I just felt really tired, really out of it. Like, my body hurt. Like, I was just like, man, this sucks, right? So I get to work and I'm like, okay. And I had to cover somebody's shift that day. So, I get to work early. And as soon as I walk into work, sit down, turn on my computer, start my day, I'm just like, bro, this is not going to work out. Like, I'm really not feeling it. Well, lo and behold, the person I'm covering for an hour ends up not coming in. Long story short. So it was just me, basically running things at my job for the entire day. So I worked 9 hours that day. And I was just out of it, like sick as a dog. I'm in the office and the only reason I stayed was because I'm already here. Scheduling issues. Nobody's here, cause there's 3 of us on our team. So I'm like, the rest of these dudes is gone. So I'm like, all right, you know what? Let me just stay. I'm still trying to fight through it, trying to be the good soldier. Because normally I would have just left. Like normally I would have just went home and been like, no, fuck this. I'm not sticking around. But I did the right thing, or the noble thing. And I stayed, fought through it. And like, I still wasn't like at first, like during the day, like I still wasn't thinking like I was really, really sick. I was really nauseous and tired, but I was like, not really not really like flu-like symptoms yet. And as the day went along, man, I just got worse. Like I started getting chills. Like I was just cold. I was freezing. Like you would have thought it was like 30 degrees in my office. I was just sitting there freezing. Like I have a hoodie on. Now, mind you, this is August. So I'm like, the AC's on, but the AC's not that fucking cold. So I'm sitting there freezing, chills. Like I got a sweater on. I'm just fucking freezing, right? And then I start getting a headache. It's terrible. Long story short, I get through the day. I rush home. I probably shouldn't even be driving at this point because I'm just horrible. So I get home and I just fucking just jump in bed. Like I just lay in bed and I don't even move. Like I'm just out of it. Like I told my wife, I'm like, man, I'm not going to make it, babe. I'm just not going to make it. So, I get some soup, drink some tea, take some flu med, cause I'm like, okay, think I'm getting sick. Like, I think I got a cold, maybe the flu, I have some flu-like symptoms. So, what I'm saying? I lay in the bed, take the flu meds, whatever, blah, 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 get some soup, all that good stuff. I lay down. I don't go to work the next day cause I'm like, fuck it. All right. I worked a whole day plus overtime and I was sick. I shouldn't even have been here. So I was like, fuck that. I'm not going to work. Just stay home, rest up, whatever. So that's what I do. I rest up the next day. I'm fine. So like by Wednesday, mind you, this was all Sunday night going into Monday. So take Tuesday off. So by Wednesday, I'm feeling better. I go to work. I'm thinking it was just like, and I'm feeling like a lot better. Like I'm feeling really good. So I go to work, continue my week, right? I'll go to work Wednesday, no issues. I'm thinking it's just maybe like a little 24-hour bug or something, like, or some food poisoning or maybe like just like a little flu, but nothing crazy, right? So Wednesday, I'm fine. Thursday, I'm fine. No issues. And Friday morning, I'm fine. Even Friday afternoon, really, I'm fine. I'm not really feeling it. I'm feeling tired. And I'm feeling like lack of energy, like Friday afternoon-ish. I was just like really kind of like I'm falling asleep at my desk. I mean, I normally fall asleep at my desk because my job is fucking boring, but, but I'm just really like tired. Like, and like it's a difference between like, oh, I'm just kind of like just your normal kind of everyday tired and like lack of energy, lethargy type of, tiredness that sickly tired. And that's what I was feeling late Friday at work, but nothing too crazy. So I get in the car, drive home. And as soon as I get home, like, and I remember that Friday because I was, my son's birthday was coming up and I was going to go to the mall, get him a gift, do it. Like, I was going to take my daughter to the park. So like it was like I had a whole Friday plan. My wife was at work and I was, I had everything planned out and I was just like, I got home and I just sat on the couch and I was just out of it, man. Like I was just like, man, I'm not feeling it. Like I just had no energy. Like I was just dead. Like I had nothing. I really wasn't feeling sick yet per se, but I was just like, just energy wise, I was just like, I just didn't want to do anything. Like I didn't want to move. I didn't want to, like I just kind of sat in bed. I had the Jets Giants preseason game on in the background and I was barely even paying attention to that. Like I was just out of it. So Friday night passes and then Saturday, this is now Saturday the 18th. So this is now Saturday the 25th. And Saturday, like that was one of the worst days of my life. Like, Saturday, cause I had my kids all day. Cause my wife was doing some work and, so she had to go into the office and do stuff or whatever. And then she had a wedding to go to. So all that combined. So I had the kids all day. And I'm just and it just started from early on. Like I just wasn't feeling right at all. And then like in the afternoon is when I really got worse. Like mind you, I'm with 3 kids, all under the age of 5 and they're basically watching themselves. Cause at that point I'm just like, I didn't even know it was pneumonia. I didn't know it was the flu. Like I didn't know what the fuck was going on. So like, I'm just out of it. Like I'm dead. Like I just had this throbbing headache. My chest was hurting. Breathing was a problem. Like I just felt sore. Like I felt somebody like drop the fucking anvil on my back and I'm just out of it, man. I'm out of it completely. Like so my wife gets home with everything. She gets home like around 9:30, 10 o'clock. And I get this fever. Like I'm just shaking in the bed, like shivering. So of course, like she brings me some food. I can't even, and that's another thing too. Like I lost my appetite. I didn't want to eat. Like everything I looked at, like I just like wanted to barf. Like I didn't have no appetite for anything, bro. Like I just nothing. I didn't want to eat anything. I didn't want to, consume anything. Cause I was just like, I had nothing. I was drinking and eating little knickknacks and stuff, but any major meal or food, like I was just, wasn't processing it. And, I lay down after she gets home and, I put the kids to bed or whatever. I just lay down in the bed. I go to sleep. I sleep the fever off, take some more meds. At this point, I'm taking Theraflu, Tylenol flu. Like I'm taking everything at this point and nothing. Like I'm just not getting better. And I'm like trying to tough it out because my son's birthday is the next day. So I'm like, I'm not gonna miss my son's birthday. Like I'm not gonna be sick in bed missing my son's birthday, even though it's Chuck E. Cheese and I absolutely, hate fucking Chuck E. Cheese, but whatever. So Sunday comes, the 26th, my son's birthday, and I feel a little bit better that morning. Still not great, but I feel a little bit better. Enough that I can get through a kid's party. So I get to the party and I'm fine throughout the beginning parts of the party. The party was like 3.5 hours total. And, for like the first 2 hours or so, I'm okay. And then the last hour and a half ish, I started feeling again, that chest, that sickly tired, that lethargy, that sense of being out of it, headache again, the chills. I felt like I was getting a fever. Like it was just terrible. So went home and I just laid on the couch. Like I just didn't want to move. I didn't want to do anything. I was just out of it again. Like I just felt the same way. And as a guy, when you're sick, you're not feeling well. What's the first person you call? Your mom. So I called my mom. My mom, long story short, my mom was like, you need to go get yourself checked out. Moms are. You need to drop everything, go get yourself checked out. Go to the ER right now. I'm like, Mom, I'm not going to go sit in the ER. Like what? I'm not, cause A, I hate fucking sitting in the ER, and B, it's going to take forever, blah, blah, blah. Like, I just was like, whatever. So she's like, no, you got to go get yourself checked out. You can't keep going to work. You can't keep doing stuff. You don't know what's going on. So I finally relented and I told her, I was like, all right, well, I'll try to get through tonight. If tonight I'll take Theraflu, I'll take whatever, and Mucinex, everything. Like I'm taking everything. And, if I don't feel better by Monday morning, then I'm going to urgent care. So lo and behold, go to sleep that night, wake up the next morning, and I just knew, like, yeah, I'm going to urgent care because I'm just not feeling better. I'm not feeling good. So, I have enough energy to drop my kids off at daycare, and then I go to urgent care. So I go to urgent care, I walk in, there was nobody there. Great. So I was like, instantly, clutch, yes. Only person in the entire building, only patient in the entire building. Walk in, I tell them what's going on, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, they do the x-rays, they, draw blood samples, everything. Come back, you've got pneumonia. I'm like, oh my fucking God. And of course, it's like, oh, you've had it for a few days now, blah, blah, blah. And it was relief because I was like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. Like who has the flu, gets better, then gets it again, worse. Like, I don't know what the hell was going on. And so lo and behold, it was pneumonia, man. So, they give me a bunch of antibiotics. They give me a Z-Pack. They just give me like 5 different types of medicine, man, to take home with me. Go home, take the meds. And I'm basically out of it for 2 days. Essentially 2 days, I'm just out of it. In bed, just taking meds, like just dying, man. It's the worst. It's the worst. So just to wrap this story up, yeah, man, pneumonia. It took me a good 3 days to really get better. Like it took me a good, once I was diagnosed and better, like to get over the extreme stages of it, like it took me like 3 days, man. Like I was in bed for a good 3.5 days. Or 2.5 days. And, really on that 4th day. So this was all Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Really, I started feeling like back to life like Thursday. That's when I really felt like, okay, I'm a little bit better now. Like I'm functioning, still get the chest pains or whatever, blah, 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 but I'm functioning. So yeah, man, just just battling pneumonia, and I didn't mean to start the podcast with a pneumonia update, but yeah, man, it was crazy. It was wild, man. Pneumonia is something I don't wish on anybody. It's terrible. It is terrible. Like, it's awful, man. Your body hurts. You have no energy. You're coughing. You got the regular cold flu-like symptoms, runny nose, sneezing, coughing, throat sore. And then you have no energy, you have headaches, you barely can eat anything. It's terrible. It's absolutely awful. And even as I know I said Thursday was on early, but even then you still feeling a little bit. So like I used the weekend to rest. So my Labor Day weekend was basically just to rest up, get better. I still wasn't trying to push myself too much. It wasn't until really Saturday when I really felt like, okay, this is like, I'm getting better. So, yeah, back to life. Back to life, man. I hated not doing a show. Hated not being on a podcast. A lot of shit that was coming out. Obviously college football is getting ready to start, and, NFL trades going on, and, then the Kaepernick stuff. And I mean, it's just a lot of stuff. So, you hate not being able to do the show, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I was just no energy, I could barely even walk. So doing a podcast was definitely out of the question. So, yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy, but, back to life, back to health somewhat. Thank God. So yeah, it was crazy. Pneumonia. Never thought I would get pneumonia, but I did. So yeah, man. So if you guys are out there, you're listening, man, take care of yourself, man. Get a cold, start getting those flu-like symptoms, start taking some meds, drinking water, drinking fluids. Do not let it get to that point. And that's crazy. Like, it came out of nowhere. It wasn't like, you're always susceptible as a parent, I guess, cause, you have kids and germs, and they're just a fucking cesspool for germs. Anybody who's a parent who can relate. And especially if your kids go to daycare or whatever. But still, it's like, it's crazy, cause it's like, it came out of nowhere. Like, who the hell gets the flu? Who really gets sick in August of all months? And, the air quality out here has been bad too, or at that point, a couple weeks ago, it was bad. We was getting all the forest fires from Cali and Canada. So the smoke was kind of engulfing us. Washington State, we're kind of in the middle, and Oregon too. So, the air quality was pretty bad. So, that could have contributed to it. But it just came randomly out of nowhere too. Like, it wasn't like we were, we had a cold front or the weather had changed or anything like that. It was just crazy. It was just crazy, man. But yeah, that's my pneumonia story. But yeah, enough about my disease and sickness and illnesses and whatever. Glad to be back behind the mic, finally doing a show, man. The last 3 weeks have been torture because there's been so much sports news, so much stuff going on that I haven't had an opportunity to talk about it because it's been killing me. I've been tweeting and stuff, but I haven't had a chance to jump on the pod and just bless y'all with these hot takes or whatever. So it's good to be on the show. And I got a guest, joining us this week, a guy that I've been planning to have it on the podcast for a while, but just haven't been able to get it all lined up and synced up. Anthony Cervino. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but he's a head writer for Gridiron Experts, and he is an NFL fantasy football guru. So anything that you need to know about getting your fantasy teams right, this is the guy. He also hosts the Fantasy Football Podcast. Good guy, smart guy, knows his stuff. He knows the NFL in and out, and very opinionated, got some hot takes of his own. So I'm a huge fan of his work. So I'm finally glad that we can get him on the show, man. He's a good dude, and he's going to be on with me here shortly after we take a quick break. So it's good to be back. Good to be back on the podcast. I feel great. So it's good to be back on the show, man. We have been missed. I've had people hit me up, say, yo, what's good? What's going on with the podcast? I'm like, yo, I'm dying. So it's not like I just took a hiatus or we just stopped doing the show. No, I've just been really sick. So, but yeah, let's take this quick break and then I'll be back with, Anthony. Soldier City on the beat, boy.
City on the beat, boy.
Welcome back to the show. And I am glad to introduce my next guest here, Anthony Cervino of Gridiron Experts. He's the head writer, the head honcho for Gridiron Experts, and he also hosts the Fantasy Face-Off podcast, joining us to preview week 1 of the NFL season and the upcoming NFL season as a whole, and also give us his expertise on fantasy football for those of you out there who are fantasy nuts. Anthony, what's going on, man? How you doing? Welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Just getting over some pneumonia, man. I got sick a couple weeks ago, and I haven't been able to do the podcast for about 3 weeks, so I'm a little rusty on the podcast game, but just getting back into it, man. But I'm good. I'm good. How about you, man? How's everything?
Good. I actually had an infection in the middle of the summer, so that lasted for about 2 weeks. So that wasn't fun, but I'm doing good now. I'm feeling good, ready to go. I mean, football's here.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
absolutely.
I feel like this time of year comes around and I'm invincible.
Right? Right. No, yeah, man. It's finally here, man. Finally after it seems like an endless offseason sometimes, but it's finally here. So yeah, definitely. So before we start, man, anytime I bring a guest on, I just like to give that guest a chance to introduce himself to an audience that maybe never has heard of him or is not that familiar with him. So before we get into everything, man, just kind of give the audience a brief description of yourself, your background, how long you've been doing Gridiron Experts, how long you've been doing fantasy and beat writing, and just, kind of just a quick bio.
Yeah, I've been playing fantasy, I would say, half my life. Mm-hmm. I'm 33, and I started playing when I was around 16, and I was around it even before that, before the internet. I would go to drafts with my uncle and whatnot, and my stepdad, and that's how it became kind of like an addiction early.
Wow, okay.
And, about 4 years ago, I decided to apply over at Fantasy Pros for a news desk role, and the rest is history. I've been at Gridiron Experts for 3 years. I've had the face-off. This is, we just hit our 1-year anniversary.
Congrats.
Thank you. I do a weekly sleepers article. That's kind of my thing. So, year-round, I'm always talking about undervalued players or values in the back of the draft, and I do a weekly sleepers article. The first one just hit yesterday, so look for that on my Twitter handle.
Awesome. That's dope, man. That's dope. This guy's, he's the real deal, man. He does great work. So if you guys are not familiar with him or haven't followed him, we'll definitely get to all the social media and the plugs and all that stuff in a little bit. But, definitely, make it your business to follow him. He does great work, especially if you're into fantasy. I'm a casual fantasy guy. Like some years I'm gung ho about I'm going to get into fantasy, and then it's just then it falls by the wayside. So I'm more of a casual fantasy guy.
Right.
I'm not the guy that has all the fantasy books and all the drafts going and everything. No. I like the real thing, but I respect it, man. I do want to get more into fantasy, and it's just I don't know, just finding the time and the energy, I guess.
Find a niche. Fantasy is huge. It's more than just what you see on, DFS or the season-long, redraft leagues. You have dynasty leagues where you draft a team and you essentially run it in the off-season. There's just one draft, and then you do a rookie draft every year.
Nice.
And you basically run your roster like a real roster, and you become really, really involved with it and the rest of your league mates because you stay together for years and years and years. So there's different niches of fantasy. I think you just need to find the one you like the best.
Yeah. No, I mean, I like I said, I've been doing on and off fantasy for about the last 5-6 years, and I like it. It's fun. I just finding the time to really dedicate myself to it, and and I had this problem even before I started my family. So now with kids and then the podcast and working, it's just even less time it feels like to actually dedicate some time to it. But no, I will one of these days eventually. Hopefully before the fantasy craze doesn't die down, because that's my luck. I'll get into fantasy once it starts dying down or not getting as popular. But I don't see that happening anytime soon.
No, not anytime soon.
Definitely.
I hope.
Well, yeah, for you, of course. Yeah, definitely. So, I guess let's just get started with fantasy. I mean, you do a sleeper column every week, and you talk about your sleepers and undervalued players. What's one guy that's just not getting the kind of love that you see or you feel that he deserves to be getting? What's a guy that you feel is just completely undervalued, that a lot of people just aren't talking about?
A player that just who I believe is on the verge of breaking out. And he's about 50-50 in the fantasy community. And I think it's because he plays for the Patriots in a very crowded backfield, and that's Rex Burkhead. I think this is his year. I think if he can stay healthy, he can produce as a top 10 or 15 running back. He's versatile. They can line him up on the outside. They can line him up in the slot, in the backfield. They can put him on the field at the same time with any one of their other running backs. So a lot of fantasy players will avoid a backfield like the Patriots because everybody seems to have their role. But Burkhead, when he's in the game, he's super productive. And now it seems like he's on a beeline to the top spot in the depth chart.
Okay, cool. I mean, yeah, I'm very familiar with Rex. I've been a fan of him even when he was back in Nebraska, so I'm very familiar. I feel like he is one of those guys that he's he's like the prototypical Patriots guy, isn't he? Like he's just one of those guys that just kind of lays in the weeds, but every time you watch him, he's just productive and he just does a little bit of everything. And I agree with you. I think he is a guy that can definitely kind of take that next step this year if he stays healthy. The biggest thing for him is staying healthy. I agree with you. What's one guy that's just completely overrated? Just like you just don't understand it. You don't get the hype. You don't get the love. Why? Like, what's the guy that's just like that annoyingly overrated guy for you?
Sammy Watkins.
Yeah. Yeah. In real life and in fantasy.
I'm very, very low on Sammy Watkins. He had that one, good year with the Buffalo Bills, and then he's battled injuries since. And then he moved on to the Rams last year, and he stayed healthy. But he didn't get the targets. He didn't get the production. But now he's moving on to his third team in 2 years, the Kansas City Chiefs, and all the reports I'm seeing are negative. That Pat Mahomes, his rapport is with Tyreek Hill, and they try to talk up Sammy Watkins because they're paying him around $16 million a year. But I think that's just coach speak. I think it's going to take him a while to get acclimated with the system and really emerge if he does this year. I think he could be a year away. Interesting. Sammy Watkins. No, I don't disagree with that. I think he's definitely been over. I think the biggest thing with him has just been health more than anything else, more than production per se. Because I mean, when he does play, he is a pretty good receiver. I do think his draft status and the unlimited hype that he came into the NFL with. I mean, even I was one of those guys that was buying into the Sammy Watkins hype if you watched him in college. And then, of course, when he was coming in the draft, I mean, the skill set is there.
Yeah.
Every skill set translates.
Absolutely. No, I agree. He has been a little bit of a disappointment though. I mean, relative to his hype and the skill set that everybody thought that would translate into the NFL, he has been a little bit of a disappointment. And he's going to be one of those guys that I think a lot of people, not just in fantasy, but obviously, in real life, obviously, are always going to be waiting on, this is the year, this is the year, this is the year, this is the year. So he's a little bit of a gamble in that regard. Cause just like you're always going to take chances with him because he's that guy that you're like waiting for to finally kind of play up to him. He's not even that old. I mean, I think he's like 26 or 7.
Yeah, he's only 25, 26.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Even 26 maybe.
Wow. Crazy. So yeah, it's like, it feels like he's been in the league forever, but it's like, he's still a baby really in years wise. So
in wide receiver years, he has a long
way
to
to go.
If he can stay healthy. Wide receivers, they play forever. So wide receivers and quarterbacks.
Yeah, definitely. Who's your guy as far as the quarterback's position? I mean, you brought that up. Who's the guy in the quarterback position that you love from a fantasy perspective?
Best value. I mean, I love Aaron Rodgers, but he goes too early. And I do have some shares of Aaron Rodgers, and I play in a lot of leagues. But the guy I'm really going after is Kirk Cousins. He is available in the 8th and 9th round in some leagues for a quarterback who's going to throw a lot. They are paying him to throw the ball in Minnesota, not hand the ball off to Dalvin Cook. Now, I think Dalvin Cook's going to have a big year. I'm just not valuing him as high as others. I think Kirk Cousins is going to have a big year for an 8th or 9th round ADP is a steal.
Okay. You brought up Dalvin Cook. Are you at all worried about the knee injury and how quick he comes back from that? I mean, they did have a good running back tandem last year, and they lost McKinnon. So are you worried a little bit about Dalvin Cook and his production?
I have him ranked as my 12th ranked running back, and others have him in the top 10. I don't see it. There's the knee that's concerning me. There's also Latavius Murray, who's extremely undervalued. He almost totaled 900 yards and 8 or 9 touchdowns last year. I think he's a touchdown vulture, and I think at the goal line you're going to see it go to Latavius Murray a lot. And that's going to take points away from Dalvin Cook.
Interesting. For those, I don't want to, maybe unlucky or unfortunate individuals that have Le'Veon Bell on their fantasy teams, what is your recommendation for them right now? Because I know a lot of people that have Le'Veon on their fantasy squad and they're just like, they're panicking. What's your recommendation? What is your expectation for Le'Veon this year?
Sit and wait, because anybody who's selling Le'Veon Bell right now, they are not getting value whatsoever. I've seen Le'Veon Bell go for Alex Collins straight up.
Wow.
Which is absurd, but people are worried. They want to fill that RB1 spot. So if you're selling Le'Veon Bell, you're probably not going to get his worth, and especially if you're a dynasty owner. You know, Le'Veon Bell, he's going to play for quite a few more years. He's been off the field for off-the-field suspensions. Now he's holding out. So he does have some extra tread left on the tires, more so than a 26-year-old running back. So he could play for a little bit longer. So if you're a dynasty owner and you can afford to hold on to him, I wouldn't sell him and just play with what you have. Maybe trade another asset or a first round rookie draft pick next year to acquire a running back. But I'm not going to sell Le'Veon Bell for peanuts. Now, if you're in a season long league where you're going to draft a new team next year, maybe if Le'Veon Bell, now the reports that he was going to report to the Steelers today, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
I can see Le'Veon Bell sitting out till week 10, if not the whole year.
Really? You really believe that?
It's not a good situation in Pittsburgh.
You really believe that he'll sit out to week 10? If it comes to it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
If he's any player who's willing to hold out and take the fines and whatnot, which I'm not even sure if he's getting fined, because he didn't sign his franchise contract.
No.
He didn't sign his tender. And the Steelers didn't rescind it, so he's just in limbo. I don't know if they can fine. So if you're not losing your game check and you're not getting fined, what do you have to lose?
And that's an interesting one, and I'm glad you brought that up too, because that's interesting. So he didn't sign his franchise tag, and so I mean, how does that work though? Do they just hold his rights? I mean, because he's not technically a free agent yet. So
no. See, I'm not sure, and I do look into these things, and something similar happened with Josh Norman a few years ago in the Panthers, where they just released him. They just let him become a free agent right before the season.
Interesting. Yeah, well, I remember that. I remember the whole Josh Norman thing. Yeah.
It became more of a headache.
Yeah.
But if you're the Steelers, you have an all-world, maybe once-in-a-lifetime talent running back. To me, I think Kevin Colbert, their general manager, down to Mike Tomlin, I think they botched this situation, and I'm down on the Steelers. I think Mike Tomlin should be ran out of town. I think he's an overrated coach. He had a hot start to his career, but if you remember 2 years ago, it was, I believe, after a playoff game or leading into the playoffs when Antonio Brown was on Facebook.
I know where you're, yep, absolutely. Yep. No,
that in there, Mike Tomlin lost that locker room. Players don't respect them.
Well,
and the same thing in Seattle. Look what they imploded because Pete Carroll, they stopped winning, and then you lose your presence because when the players run the locker room, you need a player to lead the players. That was Marshawn Lynch. Marshawn Lynch leaves, and then the defense fell apart because Marshawn Lynch, he was kind of holding it all together.
Yeah, he was the glue.
Together.
Yeah.
And I think you're seeing the same thing in Pittsburgh where everything's starting to unravel a little bit.
Interesting. Well, you buried the lead because we were going to get to some teams, but you definitely jumped the gun in there a little bit. But it's cool. It's cool with the Steelers. I think the Steelers are one of those teams that is kind of it's now or never for them. I can make the case that they have three of the best skill players at their positions in the league. You can at least. Well, yeah, of course. Absolutely. That's been the problem with them. I agree with you on Tomlin, and I used to be a huge Tomlin fan, and I still like him. And I still like him as a coach, but I'm with you, man. For a guy that, he's got
they don't kick extra points.
Yeah, that's another, yeah.
Games because they don't kick extra points.
You know what bothers me about the Steelers is they have a cockiness and an arrogance about them. Like for a team that, and I get it, the organization's the Steelers, they've, one of the premier franchises and all sport. I get that. But this core group really hasn't done anything. I mean, how many playoff games have they lost? How many years have they just completely underachieved? And there's just an attitude and a cockiness about this team. I mean, even going into the playoffs last year against Jacksonville, where they completely just, they could care less about that game. They completely, just underestimated Jacksonville. Jacksonville went in there and beat them up. So I'm with you, man. I think this is a huge year for Tomlin. And that's why, I have a group of teams that I call make or break years, and we'll get to Atlanta in a second. But I think this is a big year for the Steelers. For this core group, Ben's not getting any younger, and he's already teased about retirement in the not so distant future. Obviously they still got Antonio Brown, but even Le'Veon, depending on what happens with him, this might be his last year in Pittsburgh, and we know that defense.
I doubt he comes.
Yeah, after this, I don't. I mean, even if he play, and I disagree with you a little bit. I still believe that when push comes to shove, he might miss, tomorrow's game, and he might miss week 2, but I think when push comes to shove, I think he'll play earlier than week 10. I really do. Maybe I'm wrong, but I still think when the money's on the line, I still think he'll play. But I agree with you. I think this is a make or break year for the.
10? You said you think he'll be back before week 10?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do. Now, I mean, I could be totally wrong. For all we know, he doesn't play at all this season. So I don't know. That's how interesting and crazy this situation is. I just still feel like I still don't believe guys are going to risk the opportunity of not playing an entire season. I just, or at least the majority of a season. So I still think that he'll play, but I don't know. It's going to be very, very interesting. Another team that I really feel like it's in a similar situation with the Steelers, is the Falcons. And, obviously we all know they played on Thursday night. What is wrong with the Falcons? I look at that team and
Steve Sarkisian.
Is it just Sark though? And I'm no Sark fan. I've never understood the love and the hype that guy gets as a coach. He never did anything in Washington. I just don't understand why he's still living off of Reggie Bush and Pete Carroll's coattails, if you ask me. But is he the only issue?
Matt Ryan. Let's start with Matt Ryan. Let's start with a quarterback who's 2 years removed from an MVP season. But if you think back to Matt Ryan's career, if you actually put it under the microscope, that season was an anomaly. He's never produced anywhere close to that.
Yeah.
So I think what we're getting is the real Matt Ryan.
It's so crazy because I agree with you. Like he wasn't that. I mean that MVP year was just. How much credit do you give to Kyle Shanahan? Make 60% of that's 70. I mean, we can go higher than that. But he's been
the only time he's come close to the 2016 season was in 2012.
Yeah,
that was it.
Yeah, I mean, I still think he's a good quarterback, but I look at that team, and it's just like they have talent on both sides of the ball, and it's just. I still think, and I'm a big believer in this, like when you blow a game like they blew in that Super Bowl, it's like it casts a black cloud over a franchise. And I feel like that's one of those losses that it takes a long time. It might take 10 years. It might take post this incarnation of the Falcons to get over. I really believe that. I feel like when they basically gave away a Super Bowl to the Patriots, and I don't know. I just look at that team and, they have talent, but this is a make or break year for that franchise too. I mean, I think that this is a year where if they don't get it done this year, where do they go? I mean, you could fire Dan Quinn. I mean, I'm not high on Dan Quinn either, but where do you go?
I think I'm not a big fan of the Calvin Ridley pick. I think losing
I agree with you.
for the year is going to expose a Falcons defense that was expected to take a step up. And the Falcons defense also carried them last year while the offense struggled. Mm-hmm. So now you're starting the year showing your hand, showing that, you're still struggling to score touchdowns when you're in the red zone. And now your arguably best defensive player's out for the year, and you don't have that crutch. The Falcons could have went from a Super Bowl playoff contender to maybe, a third-place team in that division. Because the Carolina Panthers are going to play really well, and the New Orleans Saints are going to play well.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And I cannot for the life of me understand their struggles in the red zone, especially when they have the type of running backs they have. I mean, they have two guys who could start on any team in the NFL.
I'm starting to think, because I've never been a big Devonta Freeman guy, I'm starting to think the best running back in that backfield might be Tevin Coleman.
Oh, I agree with you.
I'm also starting to think that Tevin Coleman's a better fit in Sark's offense than Devonta Freeman.
I agree with you. I actually agree with you. I've always been a Tevin Coleman fan. I like Freeman, but I do think Coleman's the more balanced, more dynamic back than Freeman is. And I do think that he does fit that offense. And they actually play better when Coleman's on the field. I agree with you. I completely agree with you. I do. But it's interesting. Let's get to a couple other teams. You talked about the Seahawks. It's amazing because I before we did the podcast or whatever, I've been listening to a couple shows and, the Peter Kings of the world and all that. And a lot of people were down on the Seahawks. And there's some people that I've actually heard that actually think that, we're pouring dirt on the Seahawks name a little too early. I take it that you're not one of those guys. I think you feel like this is a transition year. I think this is a year that the Seahawks are not going to necessarily fire.
Fire Pete Carroll?
Well, no, just fire in general. Fire as in they're not gonna have their prototypical year of 9-7, 10-6. They're gonna be a bad team.
Yeah, I think the Seahawks, they are in a rebuilding stage, especially on defense. Their offensive line is going to be terrible. They might be the worst offensive line in the league. Doug Baldwin could be 85% all year dealing with an injury. Brandon Marshall could be their number 2 receiver, and everybody's talking about Brandon Marshall like he should be retired, like he wasn't going to make the team. So it's not looking good. When I'm talking about overvaluing and overpaying a player, Tyler Lockett just signed a pretty decent contract for a player who's he's either injured or he's not producing.
Yeah.
So a lot of question marks all over the Seahawks, aside from Russell Wilson.
I agree completely. I don't understand. I mean, there's quite a few people that are actually thinking the Seahawks are going to be better than people think. I don't see it. I really don't. Let's go by some divisions first and just kind of, give me some teams that you think are going to be good and some teams that are not going to be. Well, before we get to that, what's the team that you think is just completely getting overrated? The teams that you've from your reporting, from just, everything that you're covering, what's the team that everybody loves, that everybody's just completely gaga over, that you just don't see it? Of the hype teams, the Jacksonvilles and all that.
Oh, I love the Jaguars. I'm trying to think. Hype teams. Is it fair to say the Eagles?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, you can say the Eagles. Yeah, let's go with that.
I mean, they're one of those teams who, coming off a Super Bowl, Carson Wentz, who knows when he's going to play again? Doesn't this remind you of Andrew Luck? It was Andrew, all offseason was Andrew Luck. He's going to be ready. And I'm talking about last year.
Right. No, I get what you're saying.
A week before the season, he wasn't cleared for contact. And it just kept getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. And now Carson Wentz, the same thing's happening.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Pushed back, and now it's a few more weeks. And the same thing with Alshon Jeffrey. First it was 2 weeks, now it's a few more weeks. So your number 1 receiver and your quarterback, you don't know when you're getting them back. Nick Foles is either really, really good or really, really bad. And that offense looked atrocious against the Falcons. You talk about the Falcons, the Eagles didn't impress me. So that could be a team where, they're not going to squeak by they're not going to squeak by a team like the Vikings.
It's interesting. I'm higher on the Eagles than you are. They had every reason to lose that game. And now, granted, they had a huge assist from Atlanta. Don't get me wrong. I'm not taking that away from them, but they had every reason to lose that game. And I still like the Eagles. I think their defense is still rock solid. Their offensive line, if they stay healthy, is still pretty good. I still think they have the luxury that they don't have to rush Wentz back. And I think that's coming into play a little bit. That's why I'm not all the way sold with the comparison with Andrew Luck in a sense, because shoulders worry me more than knees per se. Like, shoulders for the quarterback, I'm just, when I hear shoulders and quarterbacks, it's like a pitcher and elbows and shoulders. I'm just like, that's not good.
Yeah, right.
So that's what always causes me a little pause. So I agree with you. Like, it could be an issue. I still think, I think they'll be careful with Wentz because I think they realize, like, look, he's our franchise. Like, we're not gonna, and they have the luxury of having a guy in Nick Foles who's one of the better backups in the league. So I think they'll be patient. I don't even know. I haven't paid attention to where their bye week is. I know their schedule's easy to start, and I think it definitely gets hard, I think, second half of the year. So I think they'll be careful with him. I think they could easily not play him for the first couple, maybe 3 weeks of the season and get away with it. I think if they start, because I think they play, I'm not trying to look for their schedule, but, they could easily go 3-1. I think if they're like 3-0, 3-1 going into that fourth game, I think you could see Wentz back then. But I don't know. It's an interesting situation because, I mean, you are dealing with your franchise quarterback who's young and a knee. And, well, you brought up Andrew.
You also have to win games.
That is true. But I was impressed because, again, they could have easily lost that game Thursday night, and they still figured out a way to win. Again, granted, the Falcons are the Falcons.
The Falcons beat themselves.
That is true.
Yes.
That is true. But I still I guess I'm just higher on them than you are, I guess. I still like their defense, and I still think their defense and their offensive line.
The defense is going to have to carry them.
Their running game is still good. I don't love Jay Ajayi, but I'm a bigger fan of Corey Clement than Jay Ajayi, but I still like their running game. And how
about Sproles getting all those first half touches?
Yeah. But Sproles is, I love Sproles. So.
Right? He's almost like a Gore.
Yeah. He's just ageless. That's why I think they'll be okay. They have enough pieces around Foles. And I still think that if you have a defense and an offensive line that can carry you, I still think you'll be in good shape. I still think they're the best team in that division by far, not even close. So I still think they'll be.
What about my Cowboys? Where do you see the Cowboys?
Oh, who's on offense? Like, besides Dak and Zeke, who's on offense? I mean, I don't love their receivers.
An undervalued trait of Dak Prescott, he started his career with back-to-back seasons of 6 rushing touchdowns. Mm-hmm. So I think that's something that Dak gets overlooked for.
I think, though, I'm with you with that. The only thing that I think losing Jason Witten is going to be big for him. I think they'll miss Jason Witten. I think even more than I think it's being played. I think they're going to really struggle without Jason Witten because he was.
What is Witten? I mean, Witten wasn't, what's the word? I mean, to me, he could be the best the Hall of Fame tight end for sure, but the best tight end who ever played. Speaking of somebody who can run block elite and also catch passes elite.
Right.
But, since Tony Romo left, since Tony Romo played Des Bryant and Jason Witten, they haven't been the same. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the offensive focus has shifted a little bit.
If you think to Ezekiel Elliott and Dak Prescott's their rookie year when Dez and 2 years ago with Dez and Witten, they didn't have that huge impact on the team.
They didn't, but I still think those are guys that have they're a presence, and I believe in that. I still believe that those are guys, especially Witten, a tight end, is a presence.
I like what you're saying there. They're going to miss his leadership. Yeah,
and that's what they're going to miss him on and off the field. Probably more off the field than on the field at this point, right, as far as production. But I still think he's a presence. I mean, it's like when the Red Sox, like the year after Big Papi retired, they missed his presence in the lineup. Like, I believe in that. Like, I believe that there's certain guys.
In a big way.
Yeah, there's certain guys that just have an aura about them. And I think Witten was that guy for the Cowboys. But, I mean, I like the Cowboys. I think their defense has improved. I don't know. I just worry about that offense. Although I have a theory that I think Dez is going to come back for them. I think he's going to.
No, that's speculation.
Well, where is he going to go? Cleveland was
the XFL. I mean, really?
I mean, I still think Dez can help a team. I'm not the biggest Dez fan. I'm really not. But
the thing is, I mean, Dez's attitude, and it's on, it was on film on one of those, whether it was the NFL Network or one of those type where Dez showed that he's bumping head with coaches, and we saw that on Hard Knocks with Corey Coleman, and now Corey Coleman's out of a job after the Browns shipped him out to the Bills. The Bills cut him.
Yeah, no.
Those headache players, when you're not producing and you're acting like Odell Beckham, but you're not producing like Odell Beckham, you're out.
Oh, I agree with you.
If Odell Beckham wasn't who he is and acted like that, he'd be on the street with Corey Coleman and Des Bryant.
Oh, I agree with you, man. Again, I'm no Des fan, and I know he's an idiot. He's an idiet. I get it.
I'm a Des Cowboys fan, Des fan, but I don't know who the hell's going to sign him.
Well, listen, I'll bet you $1 that if the Cowboys get off to a slow start, specifically on offense, I'm telling you, Des is going to sign back with the Cowboys. I just have that funny feeling. It's just, isn't it playing out that way? Like, Cowboys get off to like an 0-2, 0-3 start.
People, their opinion. You're the only one who thinks like, because that's crossed my mind.
I don't know, man. Weird things have happened. You'd be surprised.
It would take the ego. It would take Dez to kind of have to quiet his ego, and then also, the Cowboys and Jerry Jones, who basically said, "Hey, we don't need you."
Yeah.
And then Dez would have to also squash his ego because they had some social media spats after the release. So there would be a lot of tempered egos for this relationship to get back together.
I agree with you. No, I agree. I don't know. That thought came to my mind as I was like laying in bed like last week, dying of pneumonia. And I was like, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if Dez comes back. Like, it's setting up like that. Like, the Cowboys get off to an early struggle, or get off to a slow start, struggle, maybe end up 0-2, 0-3, who knows? And I can see it. I don't know. Call me crazy. And again, it could be total BS and I'm just making this up and it's never going to happen probably, but I don't know. I can see it. I could see it happening. So who knows? Stranger things have happened. So what about the Giants? Because I think the Giants it's amazing to me. And I'm full disclosure, I'm a Jets fan, so I hate all things Giants. And I think the Giants are getting completely overrated. Like, have people forgotten that Eli Manning has been terrible the last 2 years?
I think it's more about the weapons, more about, the Evan Ingram and Sterling Shepard, Odell Beckham, Saquon Barkley. But the thing that's getting overlooked is, like I say about the Seahawks, the Giants' offensive line. They brought in Nate Solder from New England. Mm-hmm. But he's, on the back end of his career.
Yeah.
And they drafted Will Hernandez, a rookie, who could take a little bit to process and translate to the NFL. And then on the other hand, you're starting Eric Flowers, the failed, first-round bust.
They just won't give up on him. They just will not give up on him.
He shouldn't be in the NFL.
I agree.
And when you still have to start a player like that, and you're going to kick him to the right side, and then you lost your best offensive lineman last year in Weston Richburg, the center, to the 49ers. So it's addition of subtraction. You bring in Solder, and then you lose your best player. So there's going to be a lot of problems on that offensive line. And for people who think Saquon Barkley is going to have an Ezekiel Elliott-type rookie season, Ezekiel Elliott ran behind the best offensive line in the league that year. Absolutely.
I agree. Yeah. Because you hear all these reports, the Giants are being underrated and they'll easily win 8, 9, 10 games. And I'm like, I don't know.
Their defense is not good.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think their defense is that great and their offensive line still has issues. And again, I go back to Eli. He has not been great. He has not been great even the year they won 10-6, the first McAdoo year. He wasn't great that year. He wasn't great that year at all. So I'm like, everybody just thinks that Eli's just going to drink from the fountain of youth and just, go back to Eli Manning of 2009, 2010. I'm like, I don't see it. And then the Redskins are just the Redskins. So I don't understand the Redskins. I don't, one of my best friends is a Redskins fan, so I was killing him about the Redskins. To me, that was a lateral move. Kirk Cousins to Alex Smith.
Save face. You got to save face when you lose your franchise quarterback.
Well, it was their choice, essentially. They said, we don't think you're all that. You want too much money, and we can go 7-9, 8-8 without you. And that's what they said. It's basically because if they would have paid him, he would have stayed there. But I don't know. To me, I'm like, I like Alex Smith, but did you really get better? No. I agree.
Maybe if Geis was still there. Maybe if Geis was healthy.
Even with Geis, and I'm not a Jay Gruden fan, so I think he has.
I had Geis. Me and my co-host had a bet before Geis went down that Geis was going to lead the rookies in rushing.
Oh, I like Geis. I think he's a hell of a running back. I like Darius Geis. I don't know. Their defense is still not that great. Receiving wise, they're just not there. I don't know. The Redskins are just, I don't know. They're just one of those teams that they'll be competitive. They'll fight, cause Alex Smith is that good and, they still have talent, but I don't know. I'm not sold on the Redskins. A team that I think is going to get a lot of hype and I'm not sure if they're there yet. Let's go to the NFC West. What's your opinion on the 49ers and Garoppolo specifically? Or you can do both or the same at the same, whatever. Start with the 49ers as a team.
I think the 49ers are another one of those teams that they might be either way. The defensive side of the ball, I don't trust it. I think they still need to bring some pieces in.
Mm-hmm.
Offensively, I think Jimmy Garoppolo is the real deal. I'm buying into Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm buying into Marquise Goodwin.
Interesting.
Pierre Garçon's going to return. He's going to be healthy. He's going to be a top possession receiver in the league. They have the running backs, even though they no longer have Jerick McKinnon, which kills it from a fantasy perspective for me. But Alfred Morris, who played under Kyle Shanahan in Washington, he's going to be an effective on-the-ground running back. And then Matt Breida, he's going to be the guy. He's going to be the top running back out of that backfield, and he can also catch the ball. So they're going to be okay at running back. I just think this is going to be Jimmy Garoppolo's team.
And you're all in on Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, I'm not overvaluing him in fantasy. He's back at my 9th or 10th ranked quarterback, but I think he's going to have his moments where he's going to look great. And I think the 49ers are going to be a contender in 2019.
See, I'm taking the cautious approach with Garoppolo. I like him, but I'm almost afraid that the hype is too big. And let's slow down a little bit. I'm willing to get on the bus. I'm just not all the way on it yet. I'm just like, let's, he did only play 7 games. Great, phenomenal 7 games. I get that, but still 7, 8 games. And let's slow down on Jimmy Garoppolo. That's just me. Or at least the cautious approach. Just cautious. Let me see a couple games this year when the league has had a chance to adjust to him and, scout him. I know he's played before last year. I get that, but still, it's a little bit different when you're coming in replacing Tom Brady for a couple games and then you get hurt. And then now you're the talk of the NFL, basically. So I'm more of taking the cautious approach with the 49ers, but I think the 49ers will be good enough to kind of be a wild card contender. I don't know if they're a division contender, but I definitely feel like they're a wild card contender this year. If Garoppolo plays the way I think most of us feel like he can. So, what about the Rams? I'm all in on the Rams. I think the Rams are going to be one of the top teams in the NFC this year. I really do. I love their defense. I know they have some issues at linebacker, but I just love that defensive line. Now that they got Donald signed, I love that defensive line. Gurley, although I'm not the biggest Goff fan, I have to admit that Goff played well last year under McVay, and you would only think he's only going to get better second year in the system. And then of course getting Brandon Crooks. I think that team is ready. I don't know if they're ready to go to the Super Bowl just yet, but I think they're ready to at least challenge for it.
I think the Rams, they're all in 2018 with all the roster moves they made. They have to win now because who knows if they can retain all that talent next offseason with salary cap.
Yeah.
Are they going to do it? It's all about the defense, all the new starters that they brought in and the turnover and Aaron Donald just getting there because of the contract and then Ndamukong Suh with this. And there's just so many new pieces. When will they all blend together? Will it be from the start or will it take a few games? But while that's going on, I think the offense is going to be good enough to carry them. I think Todd Gurley, I don't know if he's going to have the same season as he did last year. It was just too much of a monster pace to maintain. But Todd Gurley is going to be Todd Gurley. He's going to be a top 5 running back. Jared Goff, I think he takes a little bit of a step forward. I like Brandon Cooks as an upgrade over Sammy Watkins and Robert Woods, and he's severely overlooked in this wide receiver core because of the talent and the big name of Cooks. And then Cooper Kupp, who's, he could be the premier PPR target this year.
Interesting.
Reception target.
Interesting. Let's transition a little bit to the NFC North. Rodgers is back with the Packers. What's your thought on the Packers? Obviously, if Rodgers is healthy, we know that the Packers at the very least can contend for, or be in the discussion for, an NFC, trip to the Super Bowl. So what's your thoughts on the Packers? Do you think that this is the year with Rodgers back at the helm and with Jimmy Graham, or do you see them as a Super Bowl team, or are we overrating them a little bit? Are we overhyping Rodgers?
I think we need to pump the brakes a little bit on the Packers. Their division is the strongest division in the NFL, the NFC North. The Chicago Bears, they could be a contender. Minnesota Vikings, obviously. And then the Detroit Lions, I think they're going to be an extremely talented and productive team. So Rodgers has some work to do. He doesn't have Jordy Nelson, who was a safety blanket. You bring in Jimmy Graham. He comes in with a lot of hype. But the Packers usually underutilize a tight end. They have question marks in the backfield. They have three capable running backs. Who's going to be the guy? And their defense is young. Talented but young. So I think the Packers are going to be a little bit more like the 49ers, where questionable defense, high-powered offense, and can they win the shootout or make the stop when they need to? Interesting.
The Lions, I don't know. Every year, I think the Lions are going to be better than they are, and then they disappoint. And the years I think the Lions are going to be terrible, the Lions end up being decent to pretty good. So I punt on the Lions. They're the ultimate wild card for me. I can see the Lions being 6-10. I can see the Lions being 9-7, 10-6. They're the ultimate boomer bust team for me. So I don't even know what to make of the Lions. The Bears, I'm not there yet with I love Jordan Howard. I love some of the things that they've done. I think everything with the Bears hinges on Trubisky. Does he take that next step? He wasn't great last year. He wasn't terrible, but he wasn't great. I don't know. To me, everything hinges on Trubisky for me with the Bears.
I agree. I don't think he's ready.
Yeah, I liked him coming out of college, but I was like, I don't know. I still needed to be sold more on him than to I don't know. To me, I think that too much of the success of that team hinges on Trubisky, and that's a dangerous thing for me when you're talking about a team like the Bears. Because if he has a bad year, then that's a team that can go 5-11. So even with Khalil Mack. So yeah, they have some pieces, but I don't know if they're ready to contend right away just yet. I still think they have to wait another year for Trubisky to take that next step, that real next step. And then I think, I think it's the Packers and the Vikings in that division. What are your thoughts on the Vikings? I know that you like Kirk Cousins. Are you one of those that, cause it seems like Kirk Cousins is a very polarizing guy. I'm assuming not just in fantasy, but in real life as well, of course. I know people that love Kirk Cousins and I know people that hate Kirk Cousins. I'm kind of one of those in the middle. I like Kirk Cousins. I get the criticism he gets, but I also think that he's a very good quarterback who gets crapped on because he's not Tom Brady.
No, I'm very, very high on Cousins. I'm a believer in Kirk Cousins. I think, the Washington Redskins letting Kirk Cousins go and that whole, disaster and debacle, how they left that unfold, I think it's going to set that franchise back for years. So, yeah, I think the Minnesota Vikings, they're my Super Bowl pick from the NFC.
Nice. Well, I was going to get to that question too. Actually, who your Super Bowl pick was, and so you got the Vikings. One more division I wanted to cover in the NFC, the NFC South. I think this is the best division in the NFC, not just in the NFC, but in the entire NFL. I just think they have even the Falcons with all their issues. I still think the Falcons are still a good team. Flawed, but a good team. I think they just have three really good teams. Tampa, I think Tampa, the Jameis Winston experiment is over. He's not the guy. I've never been high on him, and
me neither, and I agree.
And one of my often co-hosts on this show, one of my best friends, he's a huge Tampa guy, and I keep telling him, when the fate of your franchise is in the hands of Jameis Winston, you're not going to be successful. I don't see it. So, I think Tampa's. I think Tampa's in for one of those 3-13, 4-12 years. I really believe it. I think they're going to be in contention for one of the top 3 picks. I think Tampa's just that bad. I think they're going to get rid of Dirk Cutter. And they have talent too. That's the crazy thing. They have talent on both sides of the ball, but it's just the quarterback situation is too much in disarray. And yeah. And I don't love the coach, so I think Tampa's in for a long year. But let's talk about those 3 teams, the Panthers, the Falcons. We talked about the Falcons, so we can leave them out of it. But what's your thought on the Panthers? A lot of people were thinking the Panthers are going to make a big improvement this year. Cam's finally healthy. He was a little banged up last year. They had some issues last year. What's your thoughts overall on the Panthers?
I think the Panthers can ultimately take a step forward if they can figure out their secondary. I think that's going to be their Achilles heel. Mm-hmm. But on the other side, on the offensive side of the ball, you have Cam Newton. You bring in an effective RB2 behind Christian McCaffrey and C.J. Anderson, who's coming off of one of the best years of his career. You bring in a young DJ Moore, who's compared to Stephon Diggs by many. Devin Funches, is he the real deal? I think he could emerge a little bit. And then Greg Olsen.
Yeah,
is coming back healthy, so this offense could potentially be a juggernaut.
Yeah, I think this is the first year that their offense is actually probably better than their offense. I mean, than their defense, I should say. You can really make that case that their offense is almost, displaced their defense as the rock of that team. So I agree with you. And what about the Saints? The Saints are, I guess we can get to that, but the Saints are my Super Bowl pick. I think Breeze has another 2 years of just high level football left in him. I think that defense is improved. I think they're going to be motivated by that loss in Minnesota where they basically just handed them the game. I think the Saints are for real. I like Kamara. I know Ingram's a little banged up, but I still think that team is a Super Bowl threat. And I think they're going to go all out to get home field advantage. Because if they get home field advantage in the NFC, they're going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's all going to be about, they mortgaged a lot when they made that trade during the draft to get Marcus Davenport.
Which I didn't understand. I didn't love that trade. I didn't love that trade. I was just like, you're trading all of that for a
Right, but it's a move to win immediately. I think the Saints think that they can do it, the Rams, and then the Vikings, all 3 of those teams, they made moves to win right now.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see who emerges. But, yeah, as far as the NFC South, I think it's the Saints. They can control their own destiny.
I agree. Yeah. And before we transition over to the AFC, what's the one team, if you had to pick a sleeper team, a team that nobody, even us, that we probably didn't even mention, what's a team that no one's talking about, that maybe is flying a little bit under the radar, that you can see being that, kind of like a Buffalo from last year, a team that can kind of sneak into the playoffs as a wild card or something? What's that team for you?
In the NFC?
Yeah. Yeah. Team nobody is talking about, or at least that you haven't heard anybody, that you actually like, that you're like, this team can make the playoffs.
Detroit.
Huh? Okay.
I think Detroit, if they could figure out their running game with Kerryon Johnson, and they drafted Frank Ragnow to shore up the interior offensive line, I think the Detroit Lions can be a real contender. Interesting.
I just refuse to pick them because I've been burned by the Lions for so many years, and I'm just like, I'm going to leave them alone. Maybe this is the year they finally do it, but I'm just going to leave them alone. But no, Detroit's a good pick. I mean, I know some people that are going with the Bears. They're going gun ho with the Bears. I'm just not there yet with the Bears. Yeah, no, but the Lions are a good team. The Lions are definitely a good team to pick. Let's go to the AFC. The AFC East, I guess we could start. That's my division. I'm a Jets fan, unfortunately. We know what the Patriots are. Even this year, I don't think that they're as good as they've been the last few years, but I still think they're the Patriots, and anybody who's going to bet against them is an idiot. So, this is the typical Patriot year that they're going to stick it to everybody. Everybody thinks they're going to have not so great of a regular season, 10-6 type of year, and watch them go out there and win 14 games. I mean, it's just setting up perfectly that way for the Patriots. So that's what I think. What's your thoughts on the AFC East and the Patriots specifically?
New England, they do worry me because of their lack of wide receiver depth, Rob Gronkowski's health, the offensive line. They lost 2 starters last year in Solder and Cameron Fleming. They lost their rookie, if I'm not mistaken, Isaiah Wynn, on the offensive line. So there's going to be a lot of objections, something that I don't know if the Patriots have had to deal with. I know they dealt with off the field objections like Deflategate and all that other stuff, but never anything with their personnel. So we're going to see how the offense is, and we're also going to see how the defense is. The defense, they usually start slow. They lost Matt Patricia to the Lions defensive coordinator, so they're really going to have to, play well on defense to kind of keep teams from scoring a lot on them, because I don't know if the offense is going to be what we expect. So the Patriots, they're in danger of losing quite a few games, something we haven't seen.
Yeah, I just...
It's a long shot for them not to make the playoffs because the East is so bad.
Oh, yeah, I mean, they're definitely going to make the playoffs. I mean, they'll make the playoffs in their sleep. They're going to make the playoffs. I completely agree with you. I don't know. I'm just not ready to just discount the Patriots. I mean, it seems like every year they go into a season with question marks. I know that this year more so than ever before, but I mean, can't you see them just winning 13 games and just figuring it out? Like, it's the Patriots. Yeah, yeah. What's your thought on the Jets, and specifically and I guess we can transition over to the quarterbacks specifically the rookie class of quarterbacks. Do you love this class? Are you impressed by some of these guys? Are you not feeling some of these guys? What's your thought on Darnold, on Mayfield, on Allen, on Rosen, those guys specifically?
I think I'm not completely sold on Josh Allen yet. I think he's the best of a bad quarterback group in Buffalo, and I'm happy to see that Nathan Peterman's getting the start, because I think if Allen is the week one starter, I think that would rattle him, and that could derail careers.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold's a different story. I think Sam Darnold, coming from USC, I think he has a better head on his shoulders. I think he could handle the scrutiny of New York. I think he can go get beat up and then bounce back the next week. I think there's going to be growing pains with Sam Darnold, but he's the real deal. Of all these quarterbacks, I would put Darnold as a player who can have a long and solid career. And I do like Baker Mayfield. He's intriguing me. I just don't think he's going to see the field this year. I think Tyrod Taylor, if he can stay healthy, he can do some damage with the Cleveland Browns.
And what's your thought on Rosen?
It's only a matter of time. With Sam, I don't trust Sam Bradford to stay healthy, so I think it's going to be only a matter of time. And Rosen, I think he'll be all right.
See, to me, I think the two best quarterbacks in this class, I've said it from the beginning, I thought it was Darnold and Rosen. Those are the only two guys that I see superstar potential in. I like Baker Mayfield. I would
put Rosen third.
Really?
I would put Rosen third behind Darnold, Baker, and then Lamar Jackson. I don't get it.
Yeah, well, we'll get to Lamar Jackson. Forgot to mention Lamar Jackson, but the only thing with Baker, and I know this may seem dumb, but I don't love Big 12 quarterbacks. They play in those gimmicky spread offenses. Those guys never do anything in the league, and this goes for Mahomes too. I'm not high on Mahomes. I know he's got a great arm, and the measurables and everything is just appealing, but I'm not there. I've for a long time, I've always hated Big 12 quarterbacks. I mean, those are guys to me that I'm just terrified when they get to the next level. And Baker Mayfield, I think he's the best to come out of the Big 12 in a while, but still, I don't know. I'm a wait and see with Baker Mayfield. I just think Rosen, I know he can be a little bit of a mental case as far as attitude wise, but I just love his game. I think if he's healthy, if his knee is right, I just love Rosen. I love him as a quarterback. I love Darnold. I think Allen's a bust. I'm sorry. I've never seen it. I've been wanting to be wowed. I spent all last year watching, Idaho games, and I don't understand it. I don't see where he's going to be the guy. I just don't.
He doesn't have the team around him either.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a big Kelvin Benjamin guy. LaShawn McCoy, who knows what he has left in the tank. I mean,
yeah,
they're your two best players. That's a problem.
Lamar, I like Lamar Jackson. I like him more than some, but I don't think he's ready to start right away now. I don't think the hype that all. Yeah, the whole, he's going to displace Joe Flacco this year. No way. He's not ready. No way. So yeah, I agree with you. Let's try, so we know the NFC or the AFC East is the Patriots to lose, obviously. We know that. We don't even have to get on the other teams. The AFC North. I mean, we talked about the Steelers, so I guess we can leave them out. Anybody else that you're paying attention to in the AFC North that's catching your eye that you think may displace the Steelers?
Cincinnati Bengals or the Ravens. I am buying into the Ravens. I did pick them to win the division. I like Joe Flacco. I think he's an overlooked player. I like the moves that they made and giving him extra weapons with Michael Crabtree and Jerron Brown and the two rookie tight ends, Hayden Hurst and Mark Andrews. Willie Snead, so that they kind of rejuvenated the pieces around him. Alex Collins looks like the real deal at running back. Mm-hmm. And their defense, they're always just one of the top 10 defenses in the league.
Yeah.
So I think if the Pittsburgh Steelers, if Le'Veon Bell doesn't come back and they begin to struggle, the Ravens could really emerge. And I like the Bengals. I like the Browns. The NFC North and the AFC North, they're my two favorite divisions right now because I could see any one of those teams breaking out. Yeah, even the Browns.
Really? Even the Browns? I was going to get to that.
I think the culture changed. Look what Tom Coughlin's addition did for the Jacksonville Jaguars last year. And I think the Browns were smart by bringing in John Dorsey.
Yeah.
John Dorsey, a longtime Kansas City Chiefs general manager, longtime NFL guy. I think he brings some stability into the front office. He makes the wise decisions, bringing in, not just drafting a rookie quarterback and throwing him out there, drafting a rookie quarterback and then getting an established veteran who can win games in Tyrod Taylor. And moving on from Corey Coleman. Hey, you know what? He was our first-round pick a few years ago, but he's not my first-round pick. He's a headache. Let's move on from Corey Coleman. You bring in Carlos Hyde. So the moves that they're making, Jarvis Landry, I love it. I think that the stars are aligning for the Cleveland Browns.
I think they're a year away.
No, Todd Haley. Let's not forget. You want to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. They lost Todd Haley, who's one of the best offensive coordinators in the league. I think that's going to hurt them.
I'm not a huge... Go ahead. No, I'm sorry.
The Steelers' trash is the Browns' treasure. And if you ask me, I think the Steelers only got rid of Todd Haley the same reason why they got rid of Dick LeBeau is to protect Mike Tomlin. Now, Mike Tomlin, there is no more excuses. There is no more assistants to fire.
Yeah.
There is no more. You move on from Dick LeBeau, your defense hasn't been the same.
It sure hasn't. Absolutely not.
And I don't think their offense is going to be the same without Todd Haley.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm not a huge Haley guy, but he did good things in Pittsburgh. Absolutely. You can't take that away from him. With the Browns, I'm not ready to go there just yet with them. Like, I definitely think they'll be better. Absolutely. I mean, how can you be worse? I mean, you can't get worse than no wins. So, but they'll definitely be improved. I'm not seeing 7-9, 8-8 yet. Not yet. I think if everything breaks well, I could definitely see 7-9, 8-8. And that's just everything that there is to be going right for them. I still think they're 5-11, 6-10-ish area, which is an improvement upon what they've been the last few years, it seems like. But I'm not ready to go on that Browns train just yet. Not yet. But I think they're there. I mean, I think their defense is there already. I love their defense. I love Garrett. Peppers I still don't understand. I thought he was a steal the year they drafted him. I love Jabril Peppers. I think their defense is great. Their defense is really, really good. And it's only a matter of time before their offense gets to that level. I do worry about losing Joe Thomas. He's another guy like Jason Witten, the presence guy that I think they're going to miss. I know it's almost foolish to say that because that's a team that lost, 16 games last year, and how important could he have been? I get that, but he's one of those. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer. He's the rock on that team for 10 years. I think they're going to miss him a little bit in the locker room. He's a presence guy. So I'm not ready to go all the way in with the Browns, but I think they're definitely on the right track.
Do you think Todd Haley is the head coach in waiting? Because you got to remember what I said about John Dorsey. John Dorsey was in the front office in Kansas City when Todd Haley was there.
Yeah, I mean,
there is that little connection there, but it seems like, at least from Hard Knocks, that everything is all lovey-dovey between Haley and then Hugh and Dorsey. Who knows?
I mean, he could be. I mean, because Hugh is in an interesting. Hugh and Todd Bowles are in kind of similar situations. Because how do you grade this year? You know, Todd Bowles is on the hot seat, for the Jets, and he's been 5-11 back-to-back years. Now he's got a rookie quarterback in Darnold. If he goes 5-11 this year, how do you retain him? Even okay, so let's just say Sam Darnold just balls out, rookie of the year contender, but the Jets still go 5-11. Okay, they go 6-10. How do you justify bringing Todd Bowles back? That's 3 straight years of sub 500 teams. Okay, you could say it's not all his fault, and there might be on the right track, but how do you justify bringing him back even another year? And I think the same thing with Hugh Jackson in Cleveland. Like, if he wins 5 games, is that real? I mean, it's an improvement record wise. I get it, but is it really an improvement? Is he really your guy? Like, it's an interesting situation with those coaches, specifically with Hugh. But I think
like
that
Todd Bowles. I know you're a Jets fan, but I kind of, from what I saw last year, because the Jets, they depleted all their veteran talents and all their bad contracts, and they were expected to be an 0-16, 1-15 team. But the Jets were competitive. They were competitive with Josh McCown, who I believe should be their starter instead of Darnold right now.
I will say that Bowles last year was better than he's been the last few years, but I'm not a huge Bowles guy. His clock management is just atrocious. Oh,
he comes from the Bill Parcells coaching tree, the Bill Parcells
right.
and Bill Belichick coaching tree, which I'm always a fan of whenever you have that pedigree behind you. So I think Bowles, just give him some time.
I guess I will admit he was better last year, but I mean, even last year, the clock management, the way he makes certain decisions late in games. I'm just, he's just frustrating, but that's the fan in me talking. I agree with you. I was one that was like, hey, let's take the cautious approach with Darnold. Let's not start him right away. Like, I don't mind him starting right away, but I'm like, I think they should have kept Bridgewater. And I think they should have started Bridgewater. I think should have kept 3 quarterbacks. I think McCown at this point is a mentor. Like, I don't mind McCown being on the roster to just be like, hey, Sam, you follow Josh McCown.
He should be starting just for at least a few games or until he gets hurt. Because
I'm of two minds of it. Like, if the Jets came out a couple weeks ago and said, hey, no matter what happened, no matter what Sam does, Josh is the guy starting week 1. I wouldn't have been against it. And if they would have came out and said, okay, Sam played well, he deserves to start, he's the guy. I'm not against it either. Like, I'm of two, like, I go both ways with it. Like, I think Sam did show enough that I think he could play, but I also think there is some value in starting McCown at least first, 4 games, depending on your record, see where you're at, and then just bringing Sam Darnold in. It's a win-win situation, like, either way. I don't think there's much to lose in either way. I really don't. That's just me. And I'm usually the type of guy, I'm an old school guy. Like, I want these guys to sit a little bit. Like, I'm always hesitant. I'm always hesitant to throw these guys out in the fire. And if you put a gun to my head and said, hey, make a decision one way or another, I would have said just start McCown, especially because the Jets have a tricky schedule, especially early on. They play like 3 games in 10 days. So I would have said, okay, let's just get to that stretch and then you bring in Darnold. But I was also a guy that said, no, just keep Bridgewater. And see if he plays absolutely just phenomenal, then at the trading deadline, who knows? Maybe a team gets desperate. There's an injury out there. Maybe you're able to give even more than, I like what they got in return from the Saints. I don't understand what the Saints were doing there, giving up a 3rd round pick there. Although it's not going to be a high 3rd round pick, still it's a 3rd round pick, for a guy who's ultimately going to be their backup. Yeah, I think the Jets should have kept Bridgewater. I think having the 3 quarterbacks on a roster, I think Bridgewater is your insurance. I think starting Bridgewater was the way I would have went, because I think he played well enough in the preseason. He's still young enough and he's still valuable enough that I think if he balls out the first 3 or 4 games of the year at the trade deadline, who knows? A team gets desperate. They can, you know what? You could probably get something. You could probably get the same return for him.
Yeah. With Bridgewater, I don't know.
You're not a Bridgewater guy.
They made the right move.
You're not a Bridgewater guy? You're not a Bridgewater guy?
No, especially after the injury. I get it's a feel-good story, but, his time, unfortunately, could have passed.
Interesting.
I don't know why was it? What was it? The who brought him in again? Was Seattle?
You mean who traded him? New Orleans. New Orleans traded for
New Orleans. Okay, yeah. Is that a move for the future? Or Drew, are they going to move on from Drew Brees? I don't understand the move. Is it just a quality backup?
I didn't understand the move either. I didn't get the move either.
I don't like the move. I don't like the landing spot.
I didn't like the move.
I think Bridgewater's best landing spot was the New York Giants.
Yeah.
You reunite Bridgewater with Shermer.
Yeah.
You move on from Eli next year, and then you have, a young core of Beckham, Barkley, Sterling Shepard, Evan Ingram, Teddy Bridgewater, and not Eli Manning. I think that would have worked.
You know what? I never even thought about that, and that would have been a good.
That would work.
That would work. I like Bridgewater. I'm higher on Bridgewater than you are. I like him. I don't think
I like him in New York. That's where I like him.
Yeah, I didn't understand what the Saints were doing. I mean, I love that the Jets were able to get a third round pick for a guy that they basically had no use for. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was a smart move by McCagnon. I mean, it was a smart sign. I mean, it was an absolutely a steal for him. But I just don't understand what the Saints were doing. I mean, do they know something that we don't know? Maybe Drew isn't that. Maybe he's retiring at the end. I don't know what the logic is. Cause I mean, even if Drew stays healthy, you got to think he's going to play at least another year or two, right? So that's another year or two that you're basically wasting Bridgewater. I don't understand. I don't understand the move there. So I agree with you. Let's wrap up some of these divisions. Let's go to the AFC South. I know you mentioned earlier you're high on Jacksonville. I kind of like with Garoppolo in San Francisco. I don't know if I'm buying all the way in the hype with Jacksonville. I love their defense. Don't get me wrong, but is Blake Bortles going to do it again? Fight me off. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong that I'm wrong to think this way.
You are not, but I think Blake Bortles, you talk about undervalued players, Blake Bortles always produced, with the exception of his rookie year. Blake Bortles was even, from a fantasy perspective, was the number 4 quarterback a few years ago. And he always seems to be at least in that top 12 range. I think he finished just outside last year, so he's better than what people give him credit for. And last season, he was able to control his interceptions and control the turnovers because it's not all on him, because they have Leonard Fournette controlling the clock. They have the defense, so Blake Bortles doesn't have to do it all. Blake Bortles can sit back and play dink and dunk football. He's an excellent running quarterback, which he's another one. I don't think that's valued enough. So how when he pulls the ball down and runs for the first half, he essentially beat the Buffalo Bills that way last year in the playoffs.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not ready to. I'm just not. I don't know. I'm still not. I got to see it one more time from Bortles before I'm a true believer. I don't know. I just got to see it.
And that's understandable. It's understandable.
Yeah. But I mean, I think if he does play well, the sky's the limit for Jacksonville because their defense is that good. The one thing that would worry me is all the hype and all the attention that they're getting. Are they one of those teams that, can kind of read their press clippings and kind of come out disappointed this year? I don't know. They're one of those teams that would concern me by that. But I mean, I think Jacksonville, if Bortles plays well again, I think they're definitely in the conversation. I agree with you. Anybody else in that division that you feel can take that, can take that step and be that team?
Obviously, the Colts with Andrew Luck back. I expect Andrew Luck to be the Andrew Luck of old, and that's only going to make the value of T.Y. Hilton and Jack Doyle raise. I just don't know if their defense is going to take that step. I think they're going to be an offensive juggernaut, as per usual with Andrew Luck, but that's not going to be enough to do it. And then there's the Houston Texans. Is Deshaun Jackson real? If Deshaun Jackson's for real and J.J. Watt can stay healthy, the Texans and the Jaguars could be the 2 best teams in the AFC.
Do you think Deshaun Watson's for real? Because he's another guy. He's similar to Garoppolo in that I think a lot of people are just expecting him to just, oh yeah, he's back, he's healthy.
That's one I'm going to say I don't know. It's a wait and see. Because just like Todd Gurley and Alvin Kamara, Deshaun Watson, when he was healthy and he was putting up those numbers, that's nearly impossible to maintain.
Right.
How do you and he was putting it up at will for a few weeks consecutively. So we'll see.
Interesting. I will agree.
I have a definitive yes or no on.
No, I get it. I get it.
He's in the middle.
I get it. The Colts are my sleeper team. That's a team that I don't hear a lot of people talking about. And I'm like, if Andrew Luck is healthy, the last time Andrew Luck was healthy and played a full season, that team got to an AFC championship game. So if he's healthy, that's my sleeper team in the AFC. I'm not saying they're going to get to the Super Bowl, but I can see them making the playoffs. I definitely do. If he's healthy, that's at the very least a wild card team. Even with the defensive questions that they have. So that's my sleeper team. I'm with you on the Texans. I think that division is better than I think people are even giving it credit for. I think that division is going to be a lot more competitive than I think people think. So we'll see. Talked about the AFC East, AFC North, AFC South, AFC West. What's your thoughts on that division? Are you a Mahomes guy?
I think the division is going to come down to the Chargers and the Chiefs. The Chargers, they're the Chargers. They have the worst luck when it comes to injuries.
They do.
The Kansas City Chiefs, who always have that pop defense, that playmaking defense. I don't know if they're going to be that. I think they're going to be that's going to be their Achilles. And Pat Mahomes, I do believe in Pat Mahomes. I believe in Kareem Hunt and especially Tyreek Hill. I love Tyreek Hill. I think he could do it all. So they're going to be it's two offensive teams between the Chargers and the Chiefs, and one of them will emerge. I don't know. I don't think it's close for the Raiders. I think they're done and buried already. I think they have one of the worst off seasons in the history of the NFL, starting with the John Gruden hire. And Denver Broncos, Case Keenum. It's Case Keenum.
Well, to me, that's one of the teams that are getting so overrated is the Chargers. I know their defense is pretty good.
8-18.
Yeah, because you got people talking about the Chargers as a Super Bowl team, and I'm like, what? Are we watching the same thing? I don't see it, and I love Phillip Rivers, but I'm just like, I'm not sold on the coach. I got to see more from the Chargers. To me, they're right now. If I was to pencil it, they're an 8-8 team. If everything breaks right, they're a wild card team. They can win 10 games, but Super Bowl, not seeing that. The Raiders, I don't understand what the hell the Raiders are doing. Are the Raiders the most interesting?
Every move they make is for Vegas. You can make the case for that.
They're
kind of saying F you to their Oakland fan base the past 2 years.
It has to be, because I just don't you look at where that team was 2 years ago. Going into when was it that Derek Carr broke his leg? That was a team, remember that year? That was a team that Oakland could, was a sleeper Super Bowl contender. Everything was going right for them. Right. He breaks his leg, and they've been a disaster ever since. And I have no, and again, giving John Gruden 10 years, all that money.
Ridiculous.
Why?
Absolutely ridiculous.
And to me, John Gruden is the most overrated head coach in the NFL.
And I agree with you.
People have this overinflated opinion of John Gruden ever since he's been in the broadcast booth. Did people forget his last few years in Tampa? He was a disaster.
He was the hot name even when he was coaching because he was so young. Before, now it's, the McVay and the Shanahan, they're all young now. But John Gruden was that first coach that got the chance young.
Right.
Remember, he was on GQ, for Christ's sake. And the Oakland Raiders traded him to Tampa. So John Gruden always kind of had that buzz, but I know he was sitting up in the booth and he was very much involved in the NFL, but you're not coaching. The game does pass you by.
I agree. I think...
Look at Marvin Lewis, look at Jeff Fisher. All those old-time coaches where they remain in the NFL, but they don't change. Eventually, the game passes you by.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't understand the hire. I didn't understand the money. I think he's overrated. I don't know. To me, I think the Oakland's going to be a disaster. I love everything about Kansas City except Mahomes. I'm just I'm not ready to. I want to be wrong about Mahomes. I want to be proven wrong. So I hope that he is the real deal. Because I think Kansas City is a Super Bowl team. If Mahomes is legit, then I think Kansas City is a Super Bowl threat. But I don't know. But I like that division. I think it's a competitive division. Even Oakland, everything we're saying about Oakland, I still think Oakland's competitive. But I don't know. So are you with me? It's Kansas City's division to lose?
Yes.
So, give me a Super Bowl. You've given me your Super Bowl team for the NFC. You got the Vikings. Who's your Super Bowl representative in the AFC?
Jaguars.
Wow, Jaguars, Vikings.
Vikings, Jaguars. The two best defense in the NFL versus an offense which I believe is going to be a passing offense with Kirk Cousins versus Leonard Fournette and a running offense. I think we're going to see that type of Super Bowl, and I would love it.
Interesting.
I love defense. Even though I'm a fantasy football guy, I'm a defensive guy.
No, I'm
Baltimore Ravens defenses when Ray Lewis. It doesn't get better than that.
I love defense too, man. I'm an old school guy. That's to me still the way you win championships is through defense. So I'm that guy. If I had to give you a Super Bowl team right now, a Super Bowl prediction right now, for me, I'm gonna go with New Orleans and Steelers.
Ooh, man.
I'm gonna
Steelers. Huh?
Yeah, I can't pick Kansas City. I can't pick Jacksonville because I'm still waiting to see it on Bortles. They gotta figure it out, don't they? Like the Steelers have still too much talent. They gotta figure it out, don't you think?
Not without Bell.
I'm okay. Let me say this. I'm making this Super Bowl pick thinking that Bell will play at the very least 12, maybe 10 games. So this pick is predicated on that. If he doesn't play, if you're right and he doesn't play until week 10, then yeah, my Super Bowl pick's gone to hell. So, but this pick is predicated on Bell playing. So to me, this is a make or break year for the Steelers. Like it's Super Bowl or bust. Like if they don't get to a Super Bowl, then they've completely failed throughout this entire run of this regime, of this current incarnation of the Steelers. They failed. And I think Tomlin should be fired. So
I agree there.
So I think that this is it. All right, man. Before you go, just go ahead and plug your website, plug your social media, the stories and things you got coming up, man. Go ahead and just take the time and plug all that, man.
Make sure you follow me on Twitter at The Real NFL Guru, and I'm on pretty much every social media facet under at The Real NFL Guru, and the same thing at the FF Face Off, which is my podcast. We're on Twitter under that, as well as all the other social media platforms. We're on YouTube at the FF Face Off, iTunes, obviously, and again, I'm the head writer at GridironExperts.com. I'm one of their rankers at Fantasy Pros. I'm NFC South beat writer of Fantasy Pros. So I'm pretty much all over the place. I'm always doing something.
Awesome.
At fantasy football and NFL gear.
Go follow this guy, man. He does a lot of great work. I'm a huge fan of his work, man. He's the real deal. So, Anthony, I want to thank you for joining me on the show, man. It's been a pleasure. We've been talking about doing it for a while, and we finally got a chance to do it. And let's definitely do it again, man.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Take care.
All right. See you later, man.
Thanks.
Brothers and sisters! No joking. Brothers and sisters! I don't know what this world is coming to.
Fouls of the week. And my foul of the week this week goes to, and it pains me to do this because I'm such a huge fan of her, and everything that she's accomplished in her career. I mean, she's phenomenal in every single way. She's probably, I don't even think you can debate it at this point anymore. She is the greatest female tennis player of all time. And there's a worthwhile discussion that you can have that she's probably in the discussion for top 10 greatest tennis players ever. She's definitely in the discussion. So I love Serena Williams. I think she's a phenomenal athlete. She's carried herself with style and grace and all the things that you want out of an athlete, especially a black athlete. But she was wrong today, and she's going to get a foul from me. If you guys aren't familiar with what's going on, well, by the time you listen to this podcast, you will be. Serena Williams had a temper tantrum today, and I know everybody, and I know the popular thing on Twitter was to jump on the official,
rip the WTA, rip the US Open, basically call everybody against, Serena, and defend Serena. And look, I'm a fan of Serena. So this is not me knocking Serena or being a Serena hater or any of that. I love Serena Williams. I have no reason to come on this podcast and bash her or rip her, but she was wrong today. She threw a petulant tantrum like a child. Like, I get it. Do I think that the official was too quick with his whistle or too quick to hand out code violations and penalties, especially that third penalty, which was a game point or a game penalty? Like, of course he was. Absolutely. I thought the official handled himself terribly. But Serena Williams, the athlete that she is, the role model that she is, the player that she is, this isn't some Johnny come lately. This isn't some chick off the side of the road. This is Serena Williams. I just basically praised her as being the greatest female tennis player of all time in the discussion for, one of the greatest tennis players, male or female, ever. You're supposed to rise above things like that. And you're supposed to not let you're not supposed to lose your composure. And Serena Williams lost her composure. And this is not the first time with Serena, especially at the US Open. She's had this issue. It seems like it's been an ongoing war for 15 years with the US Open. It's crazy. But she's had these issues before. And with similar situations with umpires and scoring officials. Like, there just comes a point where you as an athlete, you have to have composure. And I know it's easier said than done. And I know it's easy for us who are not the athletes. We don't have that competitive drive or spirit. We're not in the moment. We're not in the competition. So it's easy for us to say that. I get that. I understand it. But to me, Serena Williams was wrong. I don't see how you watch that. And again, I'll say this. I didn't watch the match live. I was doing the podcast. So it's hard for me to really kind of be too overly critical because I didn't see it live. I didn't get the tenor, but from seeing the highlights and seeing everything back, I don't know how you defend Serena. You defend Serena because you're just a Serena fan. And I'm a Serena fan. But to me, you got to be able to call a spade. And you got to be able to call out somebody, even though you like them, even though you love them, you got to be able to call them out when they're wrong. And Serena Williams was wrong. Her actions took away from the US Open final. It took away from Naomi Osaka's performance, and Osaka outplayed her. I think Osaka outplayed her. And deserved to win the deserved to win that tournament. Now, who knows? Maybe those code violations don't get called on Serena Williams. Who knows? Maybe we have a different situation. I don't know that, but I think that Serena's tantrum took away from what should have been a great moment for Naomi Osaka. And that's wrong. That's wrong. And I liked how she redeemed herself a little bit after the match and basically imploring the Arthur Ashe crowd not to boo the situation and boo Osaka. I don't think they were booing Osaka. I think they were just booing the official and the tournament chair and I think they were just letting their displeasure be known. I don't think they were just booing Osaka just to boo her. So, but it's hurtful. You're up there. This is a 21, 22-year-old kid who's admittedly grew up basically idolizing Serena Williams. And then this is her biggest moment, her biggest career moment, her achievement. And she's up there basically playing second fiddle. And she was going to do that anyway, but mired in this fucking controversy going on and getting booed. It's a crazy situation and it's not ideal. And I think I blame Serena. I think she could have handled herself better. Look, I'm not absolving blame from that official. I think that official should be suspended. I don't think he should be officiating a big match for a while because I don't think he handled himself with the greatest composure. But I do think Serena, being the veteran, being the person that she is, being the athlete that she is, I think that she should have probably handled things a little bit differently. To say he's the guy is sexist, I'm not going to get into that because that's a no-win situation. How do you prove that? How do we prove that Carlos, whatever his name was, Carlos something, he hates women? Is he sexist? Is he hates? I'm not going to go there. I don't know that. Serena felt comfortable making that statement. Whatever. I'm not going to go there, but I didn't think she handled herself great. I really didn't. I didn't think she handled herself great. I thought that was and I like to believe that once she kind of gets away with it or gets away from it in a couple weeks or so, I think she'd probably admit that I could have handled myself a little bit better. I probably could have let some things slide there, whatever, the spiel. I just don't think she handled herself right. And again, this is not me knocking Serena just to knock her because I'm not a fan or I hate Serena. I love Serena Williams and I'm not defending this official. Why would I defend a random official? I don't know this guy. So to me, she was wrong. She was wrong. Now I'm willing to get heat on Twitter and have people debate me that I'm wrong, but I just didn't like how she performed. And again, this is not the first time with Serena. This isn't like this was from some out of the blue reaction. I mean, this has been an ongoing thing with Serena at the US Open. So it's interesting. It made for an interesting scene. Cause usually these post tournament or, the trophy presentations can be a little drab. And that was very interesting this evening or earlier this evening. But yeah, man, that's my foul of the week to the beautiful, lovely, amazing, but I gotta foul you, Serena Williams. So she's my foul of the week. Man, it feels good to be back on the show. It feels good to be back. I know I've said that a couple times now, but for real, man, I mean, it's like, yo, you don't do a podcast for 3 weeks. Like I'm rusty. I don't remember where my fucking, there you go. So dealing with that cough, that horrible cough. But, yeah, man, you're gone for 3 weeks and it's like you forget a lot of shit. So, and you forget how to do a podcast. So it definitely has been a little rusty today, but yeah, man, we got through it. I'm glad to be back. That's going to be it for this week's show. We'll get back to normal, from here. No more hiatuses, no more breaks. I don't expect to get sick again, so that'll be good. So yeah, man, we'll be back to regularly scheduled programming next week with another episode of the podcast. I'll try to have another guest on. I'll announce it this week on Twitter most likely. So yeah, man, that's it. I'd like to thank Anthony Cervino for joining me on the show. We had a great time, man. If you don't follow him, man, follow him on Twitter at the NFL Guru, man. The dude is a smart dude. He knows his stuff. He's definitely an expert at fantasy. So if you need to get your fantasy game up, he's the guy that I recommend. As you heard, he's been doing it for years, so he knows what he's doing. And he also knows the game. He knows the league and he knows the ins and outs. So, I think we all learned something from having Anthony on the show this week. So it was a blast having him on. We'll definitely do that again. As always, man, I'd like to thank you guys for supporting and listening to the podcast. Without you, there is no podcast. I say that every year, or not every year. Gee, it's time to end the show, man. I say that every time I do the show, man, but for real, it's true. Without you guys, the listeners supporting the show, subscribing, dropping reviews, all that. Without you guys supporting the show, there is no show. So as always, thank you guys. As always, you can listen and subscribe to this show on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, anywhere where you can find podcasts for free. You can find this show. So thank you for supporting. I'm going to get up out of here, man. Follow me on Twitter at the Manuel Brown. Follow me on Instagram at the Manuel Brown, and also follow me on Snapchat at MannyBro15. For Anthony Cervino, I am Manny Fresh. I am your host. Football is officially back tomorrow. Enjoy it, guys. Be safe this week. Have a happy, safe, blessed week, and we'll catch you next week on the podcast. Peace.
Serious sound.